What up, perps? Kid Copious, back in effect. Purple State Party, you know what we're doing here, man. We're trying to rep America, the center, and common sense. And this one goes out to my daughter. She turns 18 this week. Hey, happy birthday, baby girl. Confetti cannon. Misfire on the confetti cannon. What is up with that? So, there we go. Got to clear your weapon before you put it down. Always remember that. Make sure you clear your weapon before you put it down. Helpful hints. So, like I said, daughter turns 18. That's a milestone for me as a parent. I got my child to adulthood. Yay. Results may vary. But, I've spent a lifetime of teaching people. When I was younger, I used to teach people how to climb walls, traverse fences, navigate through backyards and alleyways, things like that. What we now know sort of as parkour. And then when computers came around, I had to learn how to explain computer stuff over the phone to people. And in my current job, I trained new employees. And one thing that I always keep in mind is not everybody understands things the same way. You have to be able to tailor your instruction towards how that person receives information. And that's what I try to do here. I have a great example of that. I do try to adhere to the message of Jesus. And, I don't have an axe to grind with Christianity and other religions at all. But sometimes people, they ask me why I follow basically just the New Testament. If you go out in the wild and you find a wild Mustang, the only way that horse is ever going to be rideable is if you break it. You have to break its wild spirit. You have to. I don't know if I agree with that, doing it or not, but that's what you have to do. But when you're done, you have one of the finest horses in the land. And you're going to love that horse. God broke the spirit of the horse. Jesus loves the horse. We are the horse. That's the way I look at that. I was talking to a young guy the other day, and he was really anti-religious. And I wanted to explain to him sort of the way I view it. When I was unemployed, looking for work, I did some work. I put up a linked profile, and a recruiter called me, and I got the first job that he sent me to. I've been there ever since, and I love it. I make my own schedule. Every day I'm out and about meeting different people, seeing different things. I've been to some pretty fantastic places, right? And I had told God, Jesus, whoever, I said, hey, man, if you can just get me out of this unemployment, I'm going to donate to Shriners. Because every day I'd see the Shriners ads. I watch a lot of antenna TV back then. I match game on Buzzer. And so every month I send off money to a children's hospital. And I said to this kid, I said, so if there is a heaven, God's going to say, hey, you made me a promise. You followed through on your promise. You can come into heaven. Or if there is no God, I've just been donating to a children's charity. I've been helping sick kids. That's the way we need to view religion. Not a draconian set of rules designed to minimalize people or promote hatred and division. We need to look at it in the context of a philosophy, a way we should try to live our lives, but we shouldn't force other people to abide by our philosophy. That ain't cool. That's not thinking. That's not using the free will that God supposedly gave you. Let's look at things from some different angles. Take time to realize that just because you chose a side doesn't mean that that side's right. It also doesn't mean that you're wrong. Maybe you were misled. But let's look at things from those different angles. And maybe we can start to move to the middle and demand some accountability from both sides. and start to develop a society that works, that's functional, but above all is based on common sense. And now for some mental irregularities. Now, one of the most mentally irregular people, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she makes a good point here about, Biden's family getting a whole bunch of money from Chinese shell corporations and shit like that. But usually, she's one of those ones that just flaps her gums to placate the extremes. Can't stand people like that. I'm starting to realize, the politicians whose names we don't know are the ones who are getting actual stuff done. The ones whose names we do know are the ones that are just barking the loudest. Bark loud, say nothing. Yeah, that qualifies her, but she's right. I don't understand why a Chinese corporation was giving the Biden family money other than the fact that Joe Biden was vice president. It's what I always talk about here. Look at the evidence. How hard is that? I was playing a game today and this ad popped up. This is the kind of stuff that people worry about on social media, with kids, White Claw going out there, advertising on games that kids could be playing. I certainly think that this game would be one that was played by kids. I like nice, simple games, especially ones that involve, like, shooting zombies. But, this has been one of the things that I've struggled with for decades now. I quit drinking over 30 years ago. And it's funny to me how demonized pot is. I've literally lost 2 friends, one at the age of 30 from alcohol withdrawal, and one in his 40s from too much alcohol over a lifetime. And I'm not saying ban alcohol, but it's just kind of crazy what we worry about and what we don't worry about, because there's consequences that, for both sides, wow, that went off the rail. But we need to start looking at what we're being asked to give up and what they're keeping. That's sort of what the crux of that stuttering diatribe was. Oh, man. Another king of the mentally irregulars. My God. We really did have good policies. Now, maybe some of Trump's policies had some flaws in them. I get that. But overall, man, his 4 years until COVID hit, pretty calm. Not a lot of people complaining about the cost of stuff. Not a lot of random people streaming across the border. A lot of countries were not saber rattling. But, no. People believe in what they want to believe in. I just hope after 4 years of Biden, people on that side start to wake up to what they're voting for and realize that, there is another answer. And I hope someday that answer is in the middle, because I don't need to swing them back and forth like a damn pendulum. As as Putin and Xi are over there signing agreements to split up the world, what's Biden worried about? Climate change, equity, diversity, inclusion. They really want us to believe that those are the only problems facing this nation right now. And that's just simply not the case. We know it. And here's another one. Soros puts Bragg in office. And things on the left there, rising crime, no bail, defunded police, carjackings, the nursing home COVID deaths. And he's over there pointing his finger at hush money for a porn star. I mean, that's fine. If you hate Trump and you want to see Trump dragged into court over paying hush money for Stormy Daniels, okay, I could see that. You hate the guy. You're blinded by your hatred. But are you so blinded that you're not seeing the other side of it? Bragg is letting actual criminals out of jail. No matter how Trump paid off Stormy Daniels at all, no matter how he did it, how does that affect the average citizen's life? It doesn't. We got to stop letting the media con us into believing that something like the hush money is a bigger deal than everything over there on the left. That's the bigger deal. That's the shit that you can end up in the middle of. You can be at a laundromat and get attacked by a career criminal who keeps getting let out of jail. That could be your fate. But whether or not Trump illegally paid off a porn star, What's that going to do to you? How much is that going to cost you? Nothing. Grand jury cancel as DA unable to find any jurors awesome enough to be Trump's peers. Yeah, Babylon Bee loves Trump. You know, I love Trump for what he did, but personally, as a middle of the road guy, I don't think he did any middle of the road stuff. He really didn't. He had an opportunity. He could have legalized weed. He could have taken different stances on different topics. He could have phrased things differently. Right? He didn't do it. So, you know, not my favorite person. So, of course, the big story, the TikTok trials. Government demands TikTok stop spying on Americans as that's their job. I guess that's kind of true. One thing that the Congress can actually be bipartisan on is that they want to ban TikTok. Both sides were taking their shots. And I think rightfully so. I mean, I think something that is in everybody's pocket, so to speak, in every home, you know, lots of kids use it. You know, if there are security concerns, you know, that needs to be addressed. I understand they might not be spying on the average person. They may not be influencing the average person. But, you know, TikTok has a far-reaching appeal. And, you know, one thing about criminals or evil empires is that they operate in ways that we can't even imagine. And support is growing because we're starting to realize that China is actually at war with us. You know, for decades now, China has said that they were a benevolent trading partner, and we did our best to help that country. And our reward is that they want to take over the world. We helped build their evil empire. That's what we did. You know, and my concern, like what they're talking about right there, is that the parent company is based in China. This may be a device, TikTok may be a device that China is using to undermine our society. Maybe that's hyperbole, but I do see that at the very least that possibility exists. And that's what's concerning to me. Not that a bunch of girls are doing inappropriate things on there. Yeah, there's evil shit all over the internet. There's all kinds of things on the internet that we don't necessarily need. But there's lots of things that we do need. And that's a balance that we need to precariously walk along. But by the same token, if a company with that kind of reach is tied to China, it's time for them to go. I don't know why we do business with China. I don't understand it. I mean, I understand the economics of it, but they're our enemy. Make no mistake about it. But of course, TikTok fans are rushing to sign a petition. You know, it's not about banning a popular short-form video app. It's about banning a conduit for the Chinese government. Hey, maybe I'm wrong, but that possibility exists. And some of the stuff we heard in the trial didn't make me feel any better. You know, the CEO, dodged questions about Uyghur persecution as if he knew if he said something against the Chinese government, he'd be in trouble. That's the kind of government that they have there. I mean, it's the same. We're growing into the same thing. You know, when people raise concerns about different issues here, they get labeled a certain way. They can get in trouble. They can get banned. You know, and it's one-sided. You know, the leftists are trying to silence everybody on the right because their ideas are cuckoo. And if we keep pointing out the cuckoo, you know, it makes their job harder. But he couldn't answer that. You know, anyone hoping to walk away with a smoking gun, evidence of Chinese officials secretly using TikTok to engage in state censorship. Well, they don't have TikTok in China, so I'm not really worried about that. But yeah, the China-based employees of ByteDance, TikTok's parent company, do have access to U.S. user data. I don't know what they can do with that, but I don't like that. It doesn't sound right to me. Florida Republican Kamak shocked the room, showing a gun being loaded with the caption, "Me ASF" at the House Energy and Commerce Committee on March 23rd. She mentioned that, this was a clear threat against the committee members, and it had been online for 41 days. TikTok later confirmed it removed the video from the app during the hearing after she pointed it out. So if they can't even keep content like that off their site, who's to say what the Chinese government can and can't do with their app? And there it is right there. You know? Okay, whatever. Yeah. As she went on to say, you expect us to believe that you are capable of maintaining the data security, privacy, and security of 150 million Americans when you can't even protect the people in this room. And of course, you know, rightfully said, Chu did say it shows the enormous challenge of policing such a site. Yeah, that's true. I mean, people post stupid shit all the time. I don't think that's really what's at the heart of it, but it does go to show, you know, if you can't control your users, who's to say that you can't, that you're going to be able to control China? They talk about the Texas project or the Dallas project or whatever the fuck it is. But, you know, you really think so? Because when China says jump, ByteDance is going to jump. China accuses U.S. of spreading disinformation and suppressing TikTok. Isn't that funny? Because China's saying they have no involvement with TikTok. The CEO of TikTok says, hey, China doesn't have any say over our company. But China's upset about the ongoing hearings? It's kind of suspicious, a little sussy. China says it would resolutely oppose possible plans to force TikTok sale. Strong language for something that you're not benefiting from. China does not allow TikTok in China, so why do they care what happens with TikTok? Or is it possible that it's a conduit for their intelligence services? The Ministry of Commerce from China said the sale of TikTok would seriously damage investors from multiple countries, including China, and hurt the country's confidence to invest in the United States. Well, I would love to see why we need Chinese investment. I want to know that. Because they're our sworn enemy. I don't know. But again, this is what I worry about. We're being dragged down roads that we might not be able to turn around on. So, one time Chu says during the trial, we do not remove or promote content at the behest of the Chinese government. Well, yeah, because it's not in China. So China has banned TikTok. So say whatever you want about China on TikTok, nobody in China is going to hear it. And when Florida Republican or Representative Neil Dunn asked if ByteDance had spied on U.S. users, Chu responded, I don't think that spying is the right way to describe it. Okay. A little bit concerning there. I mean, TikTok is very popular among kids. We do not need to give our, ideological and physical enemies a conduit into our kids' brains. I mean, TikTok can be replaced. Let's bring back Vine. Though, as of course, people are going to start taking maybe a step too far here. Utah governor signs law requiring big tech to get parental consent for minors using platforms. I can see the good side of that. There is a lot of crap and a lot of danger on these sites, but there is a flip side to it. A lot of kids, their entire lives are on social media. Their friends are on social media. A place where they could be honest and open is on social media. I've seen it with my own daughter. The help she received, the love that she found, the community that she's put together. People from Brazil, people from Philippines, all my little internet children's out there, man. They can share their struggles. They can find like-minded individuals to talk to. There are positives to social media. Yes, there are problems. There are. Nobody's saying there isn't. And the good part doesn't outweigh the bad sometimes. But maybe that's a step too far. TikTok CEO warns banning app could allow kids to grow up into happy, functional adults. That's what we're talking about right there, man. It's a concern, and it needs to be discussed rationally from both sides. We need to leave the politics out of it and try to figure out how to best navigate this new world that we live in. Speaking of new worlds, homeless encampment has Portland residents begging for help. Yeah. This guy, an 83-year-old Vietnam vet, actually said he felt safer when he was walking around downtown Saigon when he was in Vietnam than he does in Portland. These people are not simply homeless trying to find a better life. They are terrorizing neighborhoods. They are retaliating against neighbors who call the police or ask people to move or try to clean up stuff. They are getting more and more violent and more aggressive the longer we leave this problem unchecked. Fed up. California workers across industries demand more amid rising cost of living. Oh, this is a great one. Oh, boy, this is a good one. So, the rising cost of living in California, right? So, Gavin Newsom is going to create a workers' right moment that seems unique, even for one of the most union-friendly states in the nation. Yeah, you ever think that maybe the government's creating a problem and then creating a solution, but that solution isn't going to work? Oh, my God. Our policies here in California are what makes it so expensive, and so we're going to create a policy to help the workers, but all it's going to do is raise the cost of living. We already know this. There are some common sense approaches, requiring businesses to spend X amount of a percentage on wages. That might be something. But of course, that's just going to raise the cost. So how do you balance it? It's a very tricky question. But government should not put it on the employers because that usually rises the cost. What they should do is look at their own policies that are making things more expensive. Gas is more expensive because of California policies. That's something that could be done that wouldn't increase the price. It would lower it. Be more business friendly, and businesses might be more friendly back. Support staff at Los Angeles Unified walked out of classrooms on strike. State workers rallied outside the Capitol talking about, fast food's too expensive. There you go. But see, when you make Tammy Rodriguez an employee of the DMV happier by giving her more money, the DMV is going to charge more money, which is then going to cost Tammy more money to register her car. Maybe if we did away with some of the regulatory shit that's going on here, maybe we could reduce those costs. But simply giving employees more money is not the answer. But that's how the politicians duck their way out of it. Biden's energy secretary urges low-income Americans to make their homes energy efficient with tax credits. Yeah. So that's really, and as he says right here, if you want to install a heat pump in your house or replace your HVAC, perhaps it's gone out, you can get significant tax credits to be able to do that. And the more moderate or low income you are, the greater the benefits are. Really? And before I click off, related headline down there, Biden poses an electric car that has a higher carbon footprint than a gas-powered SUV. Yeah, and as we're going to see, the only way an electric car gets rid of its carbon footprint is longevity, and it doesn't seem like that's happening. But moving on. So, Biden, with his Inflation Reduction Act, which didn't reduce inflation, included a tax credit for electric battery production, tax credit for various energy-efficient appliances. So let's look at that heat pump they were talking about. They're at least $3,600 and as much as $9,400. And they can cost up to about $30,000 to install because our houses weren't designed to run on those systems. So a lot of times things have to be upgraded, moved about, changed to accommodate these new technologies. And in the cheapest electric vehicle, a Chevy Bolt, $25,000. And if I remember correctly, some of the older Chevy Bolts you can't even get batteries for. So if there's any problem with your battery, you're just out of car. Well, that's a lot of money. I mean, at the highest end, you could spend almost $40,000 to put in a heat pump. Where are you going to get that money up front? Because the tax credits come after you buy it. It's like a rebate. So you have to have the money up front. Right here. spokesperson for Republican Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers of Washington, who chairs the House Energy and Commerce Committee. These programs disproportionately benefit the wealthy who can afford to shell out thousands of dollars at the front end to purchase new appliances and retrofit their house, but fail to actually save people money or reduce emissions. That's true. And keep in mind, as she also pointed out, that tax credits only go to those required to file income tax returns. So how are lower income people who aren't filing taxes going to get their tax credits? The government's going to send them a rebate? Great. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. Where are they going to get the money up front? Or are they going to have to go in debt? We're talking about reducing, absolving people of their college debt, but we're going to create green energy debt. That's a helicopter. I don't know if you can hear it. This dude right here, man, Dario. Florence mayor physically intervenes to stop climate activists from defacing ancient building. I get a nice breeze in here, but I got to hear the helicopters going overhead. And so they were spray painting a ancient building, to raise awareness of climate change, because nobody's aware of that apparently. And this mayor put hands on. Stop this guy. Now he's being likened to Superman. They were using fire extinguishers loaded with paint, which offends me because I used to work on fire extinguishers. But he had a great quote. The attack on art, culture, and beauty, which are helpless in the face of violence, and which are created for the good of humanity, can never justify the battle for a cause, even the most acceptable. He went on to also say that it took about 1,000 gallons of water to clean up the environmental blitz. Another great quote by him, by Nardella here. For this reason, even the most shared battle, such as the one on the climate emergency, cannot be waged by attacking everyone's heritage. And that's what these nutcases are doing. But in reality, these people, these leaders of these groups, Last Generation, Stop Oil Now, whatever, they're preying on kids wanting to make a difference. They're leading these kids down these stupid roads. They're getting them to glue themselves and onto things and block traffic and all this. And meanwhile, they're getting enough donations to support their lifestyle. They get to be the guru. They get to be the rock star. They get to parade around like, look at me. I look at all my acolytes. Probably getting some good tail off of it too. I don't think any of it's sincere. Stop oil? They want us to stop using oil tomorrow? Does anybody even think that that's possible? No. But it's a good way to get rich. Then the UN comes in and talks about mass fossil fuel shutdowns to prevent climate time bomb. And I found this one interesting because this article, this came out from Fox News. Look, I don't watch Fox News. I understand it was created to, placate extremists on one side. But they oftentimes do have some pretty good reporting. This article was one of them. They just featured a bunch of quotes here. National Review contributor. Sorry, Mr. Shankar. I don't know how to pronounce your first name at all. All environmentalists truly believe this. As soon as they start demanding we build every nuclear reactor we possibly can to avert this crisis, and not a second before. With nuclear, we could bend this curve in less than a generation. Yeah, that's exactly right. If it's such an emergency, why are we not using the more reliable alternative fuel? Why is it that solar and windmills seem to be their answer when nuclear is sitting there right in their face? Same thing with electric vehicles. We have hybrids. Hybrids would make a difference. Not as big of a difference, but it would make a difference. It would allow us time to transition into other things. But now, combat veteran and author Sean Parnell. Climate apocalypse has been 5 to 10 years away for the last 70 years. These radical greens are crazy. Yeah? Carol Roth, quick, everybody jump on their private jets to discuss this immediately. Yeah. Carrie's running around in a private jet. The people who are telling us that we need to pay more and change everything are the ones that are doing the most damage. We're about to get to that. But that's very true. You know, that's why they get the kids involved in this. Because kids, maybe, you know, they're late teens, early 20s. Maybe they haven't seen this thing yet. Maybe they haven't been paying attention yet. But for an old timer like myself, I've seen this over and over again where the world's going to end by 2000. The world's going to end by this year. The world's going to end by this year. I remember I featured on this show, you know, the whole eastern seaboard was going to be frozen over by the year 2000. Yeah, reiterating that point. Ahmed, AOC promised it was going to happen sometime in 2018. Al Gore said 2014. Breaking news. These people are lying to you and scamming you with fear. Yes, we need to clean up our act. But the cost and the path that they want us to take is just stupid. We are putting up electric vehicle chargers across the United States, even though as the evidence is just mounting day after day that EVs are not going to be the answer. So where are the hybrids? Well, the hybrids don't make money for the people who donate to politicians' campaign funds. And amongst all of this, love this at the end here, China unleashes massive coal power expansion despite John Kerry's climate pleas. What I love about that is that somebody actually thinks China's going to listen to John Kerry. Dude, no matter what we do in California, no matter what we do in the United States, if the rest of the world is a bunch of polluting fucks, then it's never going to work. Yeah, here's the last gen. I just brought that up as a, don't you just want to slap each and every one of them moments? Those are the people that are being lied to. I hope at some point they take a rational look at what they're doing. Look, man, there's no shame in admitting you're wrong. There's no shame in abandoning something because you realized it was all a scam. Who cares if you were wrong? I've been wrong many times. I've made a lot of bad choices in my life. I've supported things that I've then turned around and now rail against. Because I took that critical look and realized, yo, bro, you got it wrong. Yeah, talked about this earlier. Millionaires will burn through 2/3 of the world's carbon budget by 2050. What? Yeah, the rich people. They're the ones. Most people don't contribute much to climate change, but the top 10% of global carbon emitters generate almost half of all greenhouse gas. Yes, the owners of the factories, the people who fly on private jets, the people who have giant sprawling mansions. Yes, they are using more power. They are creating. It's just 1 + 1 = 2. But this is the one part that I wanted to look at this with the billionaires. Millionaires, emissions alone will complete 72% of the allowance before 2050. Right? Just going across that right there. And it's something like 14.3 metric tons or whatever of CO2. Yeah. Each one's releasing 45 tons. Yeah. But who are they worried about? Us. They want to crack down on ACs. And somehow they say that it's going to lower costs for families. See, I don't understand this. The agency added that the regulations were part of Biden's effort to promote innovation and lower costs for families while tackling climate crisis. So I don't understand how making air conditioners have to reformulate everything they're doing to meet new standards. And what's that? That big number right there, 106 million metric tons over 3 decades. Yeah, that's something like 3.5 million per year. Maybe just get rid of millionaires. Seems like that would get rid of more pollution. I was talking about going down a road that we might not be able to turn around on. It's a major flaw in electric vehicle repairs, and it's a huge problem. Most cars, even involved in minor collisions, are getting totaled. And smart guy here, Matthew Avery, with the automotive risk intelligence company, Thatcham Research, says an EV isn't very sustainable if you've got to throw the battery away after a minor collision. It's totaled. Are you going to pay for that? I mean, the batteries in some of these newer electric vehicles cost more than the cars that we're currently driving. This is an unsustainable path. And we're not ready to get there. And yet again, I'm just going to say it again. Where are the hybrids? Yes, hybrids have a battery. Hybrids do use less gas. But because they don't rely on the batteries aren't as expensive. They're not giant. You know, when it comes to batteries, size matters. Right? You hear me. Size matters. Ford and General Motors have reportedly made their EV battery packs easier to repair. But like the Tesla's Model Y, zero repairability. And so you're scrapping an EV with low mileage. You're not getting back the carbon credits. You see? EVs have a huge carbon footprint to be made. They're an environmental disaster. But if you drive them long enough, it balances out. But if you can't, you know, you're not doing any good. This was just showing kind of how dangerous these things can be because they can catch fire. Batteries should not be exposed to high external temperatures, for example, from being left in direct sunlight for long periods of time. Well, we got places that are really warm. And we got places that are very cold, and batteries lose a lot of power in the cold. They need heat, and if they're being cooled externally, batteries just don't work very well. And overcharging. There are a lot of factors that go into why EVs suck. But those were just a few of them. Normalizing sending kids to trade school after high school without making them feel like they're less than 4-year university kids. Yep. Because that's part of the problem we have right now. We have all of these people who go out and get college degrees that really don't qualify them for anything, and now they're in debt and they're doing menial labor. Whereas, you know, maybe if we concentrated on, you know, construction, repair, those types of jobs, and push that and actually gave some credit to those people, yeah. Because I'll tell you this, you know, for the average person, going to trade school is going to be a better payoff than college. Why isn't anybody saying that? And it's time to reap. It's transitory, the devil says to Yellen. Yeah, remember that? When inflation was transitory? Now it's just here to stay. And they used inflation as an excuse, a boondoggle, to get a bunch of climate money. Yeah, God. Banks begin calling customers to ask for loans. Yeah, well, I'm not overly worried because I think some of the banks that collapsed, especially Silicon, they did it to themselves. So I'm not terribly worried about that, but there are some troubling warning signs, you know, with the interest rates having to go up to try to stem inflation, you know. And again, it doesn't help when we have a president that's hell-bent on replacing everything we know with just more expensive shining options that aren't going to change much. Democrats vow to arrest as many political opponents as it takes to defeat fascism. Yeah, that's one of those things where, you know, two wrongs don't make a right. But apparently, two wrongs make Washington, D.C. Putin impressed with the American system of persecuting political enemies. Yeah. Yeah, he throws them off apartment buildings. We just bury them on social media. That's funny. Trump exploits little-known legal loophole where you avoid indictment by not committing a crime. Yeah, you know, we'll see how all this shakes out. But, you know, 2 years into Biden's administration, and it's still Trump derangement syndrome. Look, this is not in support of Trump. This is showing that these Democratic leaders that are out there, these liberal lefties, they don't have any real answers. So all they can do is attack Trump. That's all they can do. Stormy Daniels' hush money, how does that compare to the fact that most of us have taken pay cuts in the last year because of inflation, especially here in California? The rising cost of everything because of government regulation is just fucking insane. But hush money to Stormy Daniels. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. It's almost as bad as January 6th. Well, that was a heck of a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, please drop one of them likes, subscribes, whatever it is that you do with the buttons down below there. I'll learn how to point to the right place someday. You know, I take a lot of flack from a family member who's a liberal, and he finally watched some of my shows, and he said, well, you're not really fighting for the center. You're not really purple because you're attacking all of these Democrat, liberal, left-wing policies. And I explained to him, look, I have my disagreements with the right, okay? But a lot of that stuff can change so quickly. You know, with the stroke of a pen, marijuana can be given the recognition it deserves. You know, Abbott or a different governor can rescind the abortion ban in Texas. You know, we could cut out the rhetoric. We could start saying, wait a minute, Jesus told us to love, so we need to treat people who are different than us with the same love we treat our own family members. That could change like that. I know it probably won't, and I'm not saying it will, but what I am saying is that it could change overnight. What the Democrats are doing right now is leading us down an unsustainable road that once we realize isn't going to work, we might not have enough fuel to get back. And that's what I'm trying to get across to people. I'm not saying that every idea that the Democrats hold is wrong. They're just going about it the wrong way. They're placating the right. I hate the people who, I didn't mean placating the right. I meant placating the extremes. I don't like those people who play to the extremes. My biggest problem with Trump and MGT and Brobert, all some of these Republican figureheads, is that they're playing to the extremes. I want people to start playing to the middle. Okay? That's what I'm aiming for. But unfortunately, one side is dragging us over the cliff. And they have to be stopped, and they have to be spoken out against. And second of all, I live in California. My whole life is dominated by Democratic, liberal, left-wing policies. My country is led by a bunch of left-wing nutcases who would rather worry about making Trump look bad than fixing their goddamn cities. That's what I'm asking for. I'm just asking for people to come to the middle. I'm not asking for a final determination on which side is better than the other, because they're both fucked up. But one side is creating damage that is going to be a lot harder to undo. That's just my point of view. I'm Kid Copious, Purple State Party, and so are you. Peace, y'all. Love each other. And remember, when it starts raining, you just start dancing. Yeah.